Is there a sea change of sorts happening within the Republican Party? Have the Republicans finally grown up enough to realize this entire Trump thing was a disaster? You know, I was recently on the Piers Morgan program and they had this right-wing guy on, Benny Johnson, and he just comes out shot out of a cannon. He's attacking this and attacking that and calling me a Stalinist, and he's furious. And much of what these guys are furious about is that they've lost everything since 2016. 2018 was a disaster. 2020, 2022, 2023, abortion-related referenda. It's all been a disaster. And so they don't know what they can do in order to win again. Some Republicans are coming around to the idea that the problem is that they keep supporting Donald Trump and Trump-like candidates and MAGA people. And maybe it's turning around. There is new polling which finds that 1 in 3 Republicans now think Donald Trump was the wrong candidate choice. This is post-conviction, mind you. Apparently, the indictments alone weren't enough for them to think Trump's the wrong choice, but something about the conviction seems to have convinced them. The article reads, 1 in 3 Republican voters say they would have preferred a different candidate to Trump. The former president won enough primary races already to secure the Republican nomination, but according to a survey of 1,003 Americans, Trump does not command the full support of his base, and 33% of this demographic would have preferred another politician. Meanwhile, this proportion is higher, 47%, among Republican voters age 18 to 34. The margin of error is plus or minus 3.09%. And I apologize, this was pre-conviction. Post-conviction, the numbers may have gotten even worse. I have to tell you that there's two things that can be true at the same time. And this is a classic corporate media headline. 1 in 3 says Trump was the wrong candidate choice. You can interpret this however you want. On the one hand, we would say, that's not news. Almost 40% of Republican voters in the primary voted for someone other than Trump. We don't need a new poll to tell us about a third of Republicans don't want Trump. A third or more already voted for someone different, mostly Nikki Haley, in the Republican primary. So that's not a big deal. It doesn't really change anything. On the other hand, in an election that's expected to come down to under 500,000 votes in 3 to 5 states, if 1/3 of the voters of one of the two major political parties sending a candidate to the general election ballot, if almost 1/3 of the voters for one of those parties says, I didn't want this guy, I don't want this guy, and 10 or 15% of that third says, I'm either going to stay home or vote for Biden or vote for someone else, these elections are so close from an electoral standpoint that that's enough to flip the election and to make it so that Joe Biden wins. Now, there's a broader question that I want to deal with, which is what's been happening with the polling in general since Donald Trump was convicted? The answer is not very much. There is a slight downtick here, where if you go back to May 31st, Trump was plus 1.4 and he's now plus 1.3. That is essentially no change. So far in the polling we have, there has been essentially no change to the national popular vote polling as a result of the conviction. Now, let me give you both sides of this to really be as thorough as possible. On the one hand, Trump gets convicted, first time a former president has ever been criminally convicted, and the polling doesn't move. That must mean that the conviction will have no effect. I think it's risky to make that assumption because this is an unprecedented event such that the weighting and the methodology applied to these polls probably needs to be modified to account for such an unprecedented event. So I continue to think this is either candidate's race to win or to lose. There's this new report out from the Wall Street Journal talking about Biden's supposed confusion behind closed doors. It's conceivable that that's going to become a bigger story, and this really could go either way. So all we have left, all we really have that we can do is we can go out and vote, and we can talk to people we know and say, hey, you really need to go out and vote as well. There's really no other way around this at this point in time. I don't know if the convictions are really going to have any effect. I don't know what's going to happen with the narrative around Joe Biden behind the scenes and cognition based on that Wall Street Journal article. I just don't know. And so, as I said on the Piers Morgan show, if you give me two candidates who are cognitively struggling, which is what some people believe we have, I want the people that Biden would put around him running the country rather than the people that Trump would put around him. On both sides, there are people talking about replacing their candidates. At this point, I do believe that it is too late. It's not too late in a literal sense. We haven't had the conventions yet, but I do believe that it is too late and that whichever party replaces their candidate is conceding it's total chaos. We have no idea what we're doing. And that would be an extraordinarily damaging concession. So I believe that these are the candidates that the parties are going to have all the way through to November. And it's now a question of where in the balance are those 250,000 to 500,000 votes in 3 to 5 states going to shake out such that one or the other gets to the 270 electoral votes. Now, in the meantime, arbiter of ideas and free thinker Russell Brand is making a very definitive choice about the forthcoming election. Let's talk about that next.